Shan, I think the first thing that I would like to hear is it's the description of what you do, because I was thinking about it today. I'm like, what is a neuromuscular therapist? What is the difference between neuromuscular therapy than like regular deep tissue massage and
Yeah,
all this kind of stuff?
it starts like delving into somatics and proprioception, muscle memory, and how we facilitate new patterns of muscle memory. So I'm basically tapping into the nervous system to rewire the and facilitate new proprioceptive connections, new muscle memory. So when a muscle is locked down for a long period of time, it starts utilizing compensation, right? So I use those same patterns of compensation to pull through the dysfunction. It's like reverse engineering the body.
And what is this? Because I've heard a lot about somatic energy. What does it entail? Do you know?
It's the mind and body connection.
Ooh.
So, yeah, it is the link. So when you learn somatics, they teach you to move very slow and to be aware of your body and to retrain it. So by somatically moving the body, we're moving so slow that the mind and the body can actually link up. And a lot of our issues stem from moving too fast and using momentum, because that's what the body does to accommodate dysfunction.
I start
You
thinking
ever see
about the
people at the gym just throwing up hella weight and they're not really lifting it with good form, but they're using all ego and they're just trying to throw up the weight, use momentum, but they're not actually getting strong because they're not controlling the weight.
reminds me of my own journey. Years in a way hurting my body, right?
Yeah,
Because like when you say like doing things fast, that's the pace of society nowadays. It's not even that like we can't control. We kind of just we go with the flow, and the flow is very fast.
yeah,
We
and if
try
you
to
ever want
catch up.
to learn, if you ever want to learn an instrument, the only way to do it is by learning slow to go fast. There's no, you can't just go to anything just fast, right?
Shortcuts.
Yeah, it'll be sloppy.
Yeah, I feel like so far in my life, my body kind of because it's automatic mode, right? It's not even that we're trying to go fast. It's just the normal pace. Everyone is going super fast. Everything that we do is fast, and I can see in my life before I used to do things slower. I wasn't that addicted to my phone, and now it's getting to a point where like everything is happening so fast, and I don't know if it's Los Angeles um,
Yeah,
way of living, because there's a lot of business around me. And even I think we're going to talk a lot about this, like as a species, like me in this environment that, sorry, in this environment that I'm in, that's very fast paced and everyone around me is going fast. And in big cities, we're more accumulated, right? So everyone's doing the same thing. And there's no way that the environment is not going to affect our own life.
yeah. It's amazing how the environment we can be so blind to it because we fit right into it. It forms a bubble, and until we escape that bubble, we can see clearly. It's sort of like love.
It's true. It's an awakening. I feel like a lot of people who reached enlightenment, even the book of Sadhguru, that he talks about his how the way he reached enlightenment, and when he was very little, he saw this guy entering a well, and like the guy did some moves there that he's like, wow, this is the superhuman. And then he asked the guy, what do you do? And he says, I do yoga. And then he started his journey with yoga, and he reached enlightenment when he was very young. But I can see that a lot of people who reach enlightenment, their body, not after, but the time that they reached enlightenment, they were very in tune with their body.
Yeah. Wait, elaborate on the well.
Yeah, well, like the thing
Yeah.
that has a water, and it
Uh,
does like that, and the guy jumped, and he like everyone thought that he was gonna die, but he survived, and everyone was like, wow. And he does this every day apparently.
okay.
But people like all the kids were shocked because he was able to go inside the well and hold the well and get on the other side, and everyone's like, wow, how didn't he die? But he
Yeah.
just had a lot of flexibility and he knew his body. And I feel like I was dancing this week and I felt like I was an alien in my body, that like now that you unlocked some parts of me, that I can connect with my body. And it's the first time that I'm deeply connecting with my body. And I'm like, wow, I'm in this spaceship and I don't know how to use it. It's true. It's a very foreign feeling of like, oh, what does this body do? Because so far I kind of ignored my body in the journey.
Yeah. You feeling fluid, or how are you feeling as you're dancing?
I felt weird in my body, just like the realization, and that's very funny to say because I've been in this body for 33 years, but
Yeah.
just like wow, I'm in this body. What is? And then I was doing kind of like an intuitive dance where I just let my body do its thing,
Mhm.
and it's the first time that I'm letting my body do its thing and take its time, right? Because there's no way to fight, right? I already got to the conclusion that I cannot fight my body. I need to be very gentle and compassionate and loving and just getting to know my body. And it's a shame to say that because I'm 33 years old, but I felt like, wow, I'm in a body and
Yeah.
this body does things. And not only that, but the body has a mind of its own. There's like a wisdom deep there. And that's why I feel like I tapped.
Yeah, that's what you keep saying about Metcon, right? It's about the body. The body is really what we're integrating. We are already consciousness. We're learning about the body, essentially. And so I've devoted my whole life to learning about the body and consciousness, and I think it's served me well.
Yeah, I think that's the difference between the work that you do and a regular person working on my body. I felt like many times that I was on the massage table, I felt like I had a lot of memories, first of all, like old memories that I didn't really knew that were there,
Yeah.
and visions of people that I've never seen, and just like healing really deep ancestral trauma. And I'm like, wow, this is all in my body. And it's not even stuff that, like, of course I did things to my body, right? I deadlift, I squat a lot of weight, and I was at the gym like with that approach to my body. But also for my past lives, like things that I inherited from I see a lot of my grandma and my mom in me. So it's like genetics, just like epigenetics, right? Everything that I brought with me. And it's difficult to look at those things.
Yeah, it's called emotional release, as the muscles absorb our emotions and mirror our emotions. So when the somatic link is formed, it's the emotions, the mind and the body connection, the muscles mirror those emotions and yeah, form trauma. And so when those muscles release, the emotions and the trauma flow with it back to the source of the memory, right? So
Back
a lot of people cry on the table and have physical reactions and emotional memories, and it's that link, right? It's
Yeah, many times on the table, I felt like you would hit a point that there would be so much pain that it would just like kind of explode. And for a moment, my consciousness would just like zzz, and then come back. And I'm like, okay, that there is something happening here. And that reminds me of my ayahuasca sessions. Whenever someone says something very deep that goes deep into my consciousness, I have this kind of a like glitch and it makes it like zzz, and then it comes back.
yeah.
And I feel like the trauma goes to the back, to the source of its origin, right? But in the meantime, we're just carrying in our bodies. It's just like this box of a lot of stuff that we carry around, and how much this reflects our mind, right? We think that it's just the mind, but there's a lot in the body that we carry.
Yeah, I mean you can't look at them as separate, in my opinion. We see the mind is sort of like, so it's subconscious, a lot of everything, right? There's so many things that are happening below the surface that we really aren't able to perceive correctly unless we really decide to stop being distracted and tap in, because all that information is there, but we live in a world of distractions. So it's easy to blame the body because we get direct results from the body. We can see what is happening on the surface rather than everything that's happening underneath. And we can also neglect and be ignorant to our mind, but you can't really ignore the body.
What I feel like now that I'm doing the work on my body, right? I feel like I'm coming back to my body, and I had never been in my body before. So I feel like it's because of how harsh life is, at least for
Older.
me, right?
You get a little older, you can't damage it in the same way. It starts to catch up.
And I feel like I dissociated my whole life, even like my childhood memories. I don't have many memories of my childhood because I feel like it was just a lot of trauma, and I kind of like blocked my brain, blocked like my mind just like I can't deal with that. Let's
Yeah.
just put under the rug, and then eventually you need to pull the rug. And the thing about this dissociation is that eventually you're going to go back to the body. And like you said, it's very difficult to be aware of the body and be in the body, be present, because I feel like this only happens whenever we have an accident, or of course our body calls our attention, right, through diseases.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. We can't ignore it to a certain point. We take it there, you know, whatever permission slip we need to learn, to finally learn. And the body kind of like puts that halt on the pattern if it's not serving us, right?
Yeah, I'm thinking about which, because since you work on the body, right, which advice do you have for, because I feel like my journey, it's not being out of like just being aware of it. It's just because I'm deep pain and I need to look at my body. I'm like, okay, it's yelling. My body's yelling. So it's communicating with me. What are some advices that you have for, I think we all have traumas to a level, like
Mm-hmm.
some big traumas, small traumas. We don't compare traumas, but it's all in our body and we all carry. So what are some advices that you have?
Advices for people to deal with physical trauma.
Yeah, to win this journey of the body, because I don't know when you started. Maybe you can talk a little about your journey too. Why did you decide to go in the path of like healing the body when it started with you? Because I feel like it's better to be aware of it and be conscious of the body and be present than wait for a disease to come to take care of the body. So I think more like prevention would be, but not
Yeah.
prevention because we should be in our body all the time, right?
Yeah, I mean, I had a lot of injuries, a lot of things that led me down this path. And if I didn't take this path, I would have been severely messed up because, you know, just not understanding the body when I was younger and putting it through so much from like snowboarding, skateboarding, basketball all the time. And I was doing these extreme sports, but also playing basketball all the time. So, like, all that lateral movement on top of injuries and some other injuries that were really gnarly. I mean, the one that I suffered a blunt force impact to my head, and it completely threw off my jaw and my neck, and
Thank God.
that was the worst one. So I just had a lot of imbalances from my injuries, and I had to figure out a way um, to just balance out my body because I was just so out of alignment. And also growing up taller, uh, we try and blend in, you know, and that's probably one of the could be potentially the best example of how our body and our mind emerges to blend in. And I would shrink myself because people's eyes were lower than me. And so and you don't want to tower above anyone. You don't want to try and like dominate anyone in a conversation. But being in a taller body, you have to learn how to navigate distance and good posture and maintaining eye contact. And it wasn't until I really met people taller than me that I realized I was like, oh my gosh, you know, I've been shrinking myself. And it happened subconsciously. It's all I ever knew. And once I started becoming more aware of the body, I really started to hold good posture and just learn the distancing appropriate to my height. And just all these things it added up to just really trying to understand the body. And I'm really thankful that it just started by learning massage. Just I learned so much about my body just learning the core program of massage at NHI. It just really allowed my spirit and my body to like make sense for like the first time in my life. And then came neuromuscular therapy, where like the real, well, not till massage therapy, because massage therapists are real as well because they're taking on a lot of energy. And the energy is the name of the game when you're doing this kind of work. There's a lot of transfer, a lot of people burn out. And so for me, yeah, in order to just, you have to be okay with exploring and manipulating the tissues. You can't be scared. Like we have the, like you were experiencing this sort of like deep fear of changing anything. The body is very capable of healing itself, but you just have to allow that to happen and not be scared of the pain. I think a lot of people, when they're facing with the idea of pain, we tense, right? You have to relax into the pain. If it's a good pain, you want dull pain. And dull and burning. Burning is when the muscle is pairing and facilitating new memory. But
pairing. Let me stop you right
there. If it is sharp, then no. You need to go to a different area, superior, inferior, wherever. Just don't try and force pain, like sharp pain. If it's, you want that dull, achy pain. And that is what really allows the muscle to relax, but you have to relax into it. Just like a psychedelic, you can't fight it.
Ooh, that's difficult, right? To relax in the pain. And I feel like that's the whole thing about us not being present with the body, because there's a lot of pain there. Yeah. So we avoid like all the addictions, everything that we have in our life, everything that we have in this reality is basically a distraction for us to not be in the body, right? Let me do anything else but to be in my body and sit with myself, because when we sit with ourselves, that's where the pain is. And that's where the pain of the body is too, right? Mm. Actually, it's all in the body. It's all in the body, the pain. Like even if you see, like when we have an emotion, we can feel in the heart. And like when you were touching the muscles close to my heart, I'm like, wow, there's a lot there.
Well, and that's the work I've been developing, is that we all have what's called like red light and green light posture, green being open, red is closed. But the red light posture is the protective mechanism instilled throughout our whole existence, is fetal position. Right?
Let's talk about that. That's very difficult for me to hear, but let's talk about that.
Fetal position is how our body protects our organs, right? And that is this deeply instilled connection, mind-body connection. When we are in a state of fight or flight, we protect our organs. And that when you say, hey, you're stressed, you should change your posture, blah, 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 people are like, I'm not stressed. That how could my stress affect my body? And it's like, no, it's actually ingrained in your body to protect your organs, fight or flight. Even though we're not running from saber-toothed tigers anymore, this is the pattern, right? It is protecting the heart, the neck, just in here, we're locked in here. This pattern is a domino effect, and that affects our whole body. So that's what I'm learning as I do this. I've been doing this for 10 years and understanding that pattern is a domino effect, and it stems throughout the whole body, because we all have that exact pattern.
It is very difficult for me to hear that. Because if you think, it's very sad, right? That we go, even like my leg, I was asking you, like, why is my leg going like inside? My feet should be like that, right? Why is it going like that? And you're like, oh, it's trying to go in fetal position. And I'm like, wow, how long have I been neglecting my body? How long have I not paid attention to what my body's saying, right? Because it is a response of the body. So I think about how many years I've been in this
fight or flight mode. And it, like you said, it's normalized. It's a default. People don't even know that they're tense. And like I'm good at watching people when they're talking about something that like stresses them, but usually they go like that, like they tense up the like when they're talking about someone they don't like, someone that they fought with, like their whole body just like tense up. And I'm like, pay attention to your body posture, like pay attention to how your body is because if you relax, you can process, right? Like you're talking about things and it's not affecting you. But it's difficult, Sean, to know all of that because it just shows my darkness, like all the time that I neglected my body, that I didn't really listen to my body. And the body is the only thing that I have here, right?
Yeah, I think that is the essential part of being human is to inhabit a body, have consciousness, inhabit a body, and the body is the link, right? It's the facilitator of our experience, and we cannot expand and evolve without it.
Yeah, that's what I'm learning, that if I want to ascend and raise my consciousness, I need to bring the body with me. I think Metcon said in his body that before people would whenever they would go through an ascension, they wouldn't bring the body with them. So the body would be left behind and then they would ascend and the body would die. But now we're bringing the body with us. And I'm like, good Lord.
The feeling of the ego death is not actually us dying. I think people throw that around too much. It's actually a protective mechanism of the soul leaving the body. So the body is freaking out, right? Because the soul is no longer as present. As we ascend, we cannot bring the body, but when we come back, we understand that the body has been panicking this whole time without really us understanding.
Yeah, that's what I don't know what I was watching. I don't know if it was Metcon, but yeah, he was saying that whenever we have an awakening, the body struggles because it heals way faster, like it evolves. It's lower, not faster, it's lower than the consciousness, because it's like you said, the consciousness is already there.
Yeah.
The body needs to catch up, and the body heals way slower than we would like. And talking about the psychedelic experiences, we're reaching really high levels of consciousness. And it's like I said, it's a defense mechanism. It's how we're here. We're just here because we have an ego. So on the level of the body really feels like it's dying when we have an ego death.
Yeah.
And I feel like this happened a lot to me, of like my body just like, even I see people that comment on my channel and like, oh, I'm gonna do another heroic dose and I'm gonna do like so many psychedelic trips, and there's ego backlash, right? That it's like a rubber that you pull and eventually it's gonna let go and hit you. And that's the process of the body, because the ego is linked to the body, right? The consciousness that it's like free is up there. And in the society that we're nowadays, or in taking a lot of information, it's like podcasts and books and documentaries and like all the time and talking to people. And where's the body in the game, right?
Yeah, it's very, very tricky. The awareness to be present with the body is the hardest thing we could ever do. It's funny how you can be so productive with your life if you just do nothing. You know what I mean? But really do nothing, like silence everything, only focus on your breath. And we have this disease where we are the act of meditation is so incredibly hard in this world that we live in. And it's just breathing, it's just doing nothing. And what does that say about us, right?
But I think that the thing is not even doing nothing, it's sitting with a stuff. Because for enlightened, we would experience nothingness, which is a blissful state. But when we return to the body and we're present with the body with no distractions, just us sitting in deep meditation, stuff comes, right? It's like a mailbox that is like there's 5,000 emails, and you need to deal with all those before you can reach the blissful state.
Yeah, that is it. That's the problem, right?
And to sit with all those emails that you need to open each one of them and process and do changes in your life. And it's very difficult to, I think there's a quote that says that the most difficult thing is to face your own soul, to face your own stuff.
I
And
like the notebook way of putting it is like I always thought of it like a piece of paper, and I have so much stuff on the paper, right? I can't create anything because I have too much shit on the paper, right? And the longer I meditate, I clear the space and I have a new page, and that new page allows me to manifest and create what I want in my life, right?
it is a difficult process. It's clearing out. It's not even putting new stuff. Because new stuff you're gonna put later, but first you need to clean up, and sitting with our emotions and processing, because if we just stopped and enjoyed life, that would be amazing, right? But as soon as we quiet the mind, that's what bad trips are, right? Oh, I didn't know that all those things were there. And then suddenly when I stopped to have a psychedelic trip, people that use it recreationally usually have bad trips because they're just taking it to have fun, but then they need to do the dishes and deal with stuff, and stuff comes up. And I feel like some people, they think that it's optional to get into the spiritual journey and to process stuff, and it's not. Like eventually it's gonna bite you in the ass if you don't deal with it right now. And I can tell by my own journey that I did a lot of meditation, but I also feel like I wasn't compassionate with my body, because like I did 2 Vipassanas, which also destroyed my body because I would have to be in the same position for a long time. And it's that harsh approach of strong determination sitting, right? You stay there, you don't move at all. And it's very harsh on the body. It's not very, because it is a masculine world, right? It's the patriarchy. Like you need to sit there and just do it for when, like how many hours? Sometimes we'll do like 2 or 3 hours.
I'm a competitive meditator.
Yeah, but if your body can handle, it's okay. But I feel like it's a very, I remember getting out of the meditation and they're like, oh no, you need to stay there. And I had menstrual cramp and they're like, no, regardless, it doesn't matter if you're a woman, you need to be in the room meditating. And I'm like, good Lord, like it's a very harsh approach with the body. Buddhism itself, Buddhism is a religion, right? It's very strict. And it's a harsh approach. So what would you talk about this approach with the body? Because I'm seeing myself being compassionate and gentle with my body for the first time ever. So how is your approach? How did you learn so far to treat your own body?
Well, that's the funny thing is like I used to meditate a lot when I was younger, and I don't actually meditate that long now. Like before, I would put in like 2 hours at a time. Like I was so committed to it, and I wanted to like astral travel and all that crazy stuff. And so I got to the point where I started like scaring myself because I was going like so deep. And I think that's really what it comes down to is like when you start getting really deep, you start picking up on things that you normally wouldn't pick up on. And I remember there was a time where I couldn't move after a session. I had meditated so long that I had to literally wait for everything to align before I could. It took about like 10 minutes for my soul to like align with my body. And I don't know if it's just because my body was so stagnant for such a long period of time that wasn't able to move, but it scared me. And but I mean, meditation doesn't have to be, you don't have to pretzel yourself to achieve, to achieve that. Like you can meditate laying down and just getting started. But what you're experiencing is your back trying to back. If your legs are crossed and your back is stabilizing for your legs, it's going to be very uncomfortable to meditate. because your legs are open and your back is trying to keep them in alignment. Because we have lateral hip stabilizers in our back that their job is just to stabilize the hips, right? And if our hips are very exaggerated, very externally rotated, and your back is like, what is happening? It's going to try and lock up. And yeah, you just have to start understanding trigger points and start applying yourself to learning about the body and the one thing that's keeping you here. So it's amazing to me that people go through their whole life without delving into the body like that, trying to understand the one thing that we have. So a lot of people care about their cars and houses more than this vessel.
I think talking a little about the journey of my body, what do you think happened, Sean? Was it like my sexual abuse, or do you think it was all my childhood that I just like start going? Because I went through a lot in my childhood and then I was abused sexually. So do you think it was a one-time thing that happened to my body, or it was just like...
Just as you said that, you started doing just a little here, like right as you relived that, as you delivered that, you tensed a little.
So it was all the traumas throughout my life. It wasn't a one-time thing.
I mean, it's both, right? Because if as you start discussing sexual trauma, I started like, no, it's you. What did you do, right? You started working out. You started, I'm going to be fucking...
Yes, I became a gym rat. Yes.
Never touch me again, but you're putting all of that emotion into your body and working out of anger and momentum and forcing, so that no one would force themselves. Like hurt people, right? And you're hurting yourself, right? But it was also empowering. It's funny how that how that happens.
Yes, but I feel like it was very destructive. Like literally, I would go to the gym and I would destroy my body. It was like I had this thing in my body that needed to get out, and I needed to work out really hard so I could just be in body. And I remember that before working out, like after the sexual abuse, I remember taking many showers per day because it's like there was something in me that I needed to wash it off. And after I started working out, the showers decreased. Okay. Because it's like I had another way of soothing myself through working out. But I feel like I was dissociating more than I was connecting with my body when I work out, because it was like all that rage that should go towards maybe the person that did the abuse or to someone else, like just channel in a better way instead of hurting myself. And that anger stayed inside me and it went towards myself instead of being transmuted. And I didn't know any better. I didn't even know why I was working out that way.
Well, we get rewarded for looking good in this society. It doesn't matter what's happening on the...
Exactly. Yeah, it was a whole... Yeah.
You must be healthy.
Exactly. That was funny because everyone's like, oh, it's so inspiring that you work out, and like people have no idea how what's going on within me, why I'm working out, like why I'm this way. And I feel like I was taking a lot of pre-workout, and pre-workout was basically helping me dissociate more because the adrenaline was all over my body, and I would do things like I would do pull-ups. Okay, I could do pull-ups. So imagine a woman doing pull-ups, and like I wasn't really feeling the pain in my body when I was on pre-workout. It was like C4 extreme, that very, very hard. And I would disconnect from my body. So I would get injuries because I was disconnected when I was pushing really hard, because my body has a limit, but the caffeine was making this limit like... Yeah. It was passing my limit. It was over the limit. And that's how I hurt my body doing deadlifts. And everyone's like, wow, you can do a lot of push-ups. You can do... And I'm like, yeah, with caffeine, right? And I feel like as a society, we're pushing our limits all the time with caffeine.
Yeah. Sneaky.
Yeah, I feel like, but going back, I feel like one time I left the ayahuasca ceremony and I was driving home and I passed by a gym and I looked inside the gym and everyone was very like their faces, you could see that they were all angry. And especially as a man to look good, right? To have that, you know, like you're obligated to have muscles and to be all built. And when I looked inside the gym, I was still in the force of the ayahuasca. Not I wasn't high driving, but it was still in my system. And I just looked and I felt so sad because I didn't feel like people were at the gym. You know, when there's like the glass and I could see all inside the gym, I didn't feel like the energy I felt was that destructive energy. It wasn't like people were working out because they love their body. It was
Yeah.
more like it's a punishment. Like I need to have this body. It's like just like beating up the body. I don't know if I'm projecting my stuff, if that's how it is, because you can talk about that because you're a man, but that's what I felt. There was not much love in all those people working out.
For me, when I was really into that sort of lifestyle, as I went to a therapist and I was like going through a bad breakup, it's like I went to talk to him and he's like, you really didn't give me too much advice except go work out. And being like 17, 18, I was like, okay, I'm gonna like work out then. And I just like I got a personal trainer and I was still like in a party mindset, but I was also trying to build my body. And it's like those things do not work together. Like you need to recover, you need to sleep. I would like work out to the point of like almost passing out because I was living two different lives. I was trying to party, but also be hella strong. And what ended up happening is like my mind was just not prepared for all of the attention I was getting and and I just kept getting sick. You know, I just wasn't able to. There's a very fine line when we're building our body. We have to be conscious beings. It can't be just when you start building the body like that before your mind is ready, I think, in my opinion, is a really bad idea. It just leads you down a lot of paths. If because we live in such a superficial world, if your body is like super, um, we view the physical health as mental health, right? If you have muscles, you must be healthy, and so that's usually not the case, though. You know, it's a because it's the younger we are, the more muscles we have, right? And that means the less experience we have, less maturity. And we look at like I work with Cal football and those dudes are like not even 20 and they look like grown ass men. It's very confusing. You know, it's like hacking hacking the body to be, and maybe I don't know. I can't pass judgment on it, but I think it is a really strange thing that we can look at like a 20-year-old guy and see him as a grown man.
And not only that, but the power of the body, right? Your mind is not fully formed, but you have this huge body that like is very powerful.
Yeah.
Playing with fire.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like well, you at least you had a personal trainer. I had just me, myself, and I would go and destroy my body at the gym. And I remember people are like, oh, that's so fun that you work out. And at that time that I was working out a lot, it was an ego trip, of course. I was having eating disorders that I didn't really know that I had eating disorders, but I was doing a sports nutrition course. And then I read and I'm like, wow, I have an eating disorder. And I didn't really know. So it's years, Sean. I'm talking about like when I was in Berkeley, when I met you 8 years ago, like in only now that I'm actually sitting with my body and saying, let's see what I have to process in the body, like really paying attention to the body. It's a whole process that of disconnection, of hurting my body too. And it's very painful to talk about those things because it's my darkness too. And we all have it, right? Especially in this superficial society, everyone tells me like, oh, but you look so good, but like you can eat whatever you want. I'm like, no, that's not how it works, you know. And it's very backwards, the society of nowadays.
Yeah, for a reason. I mean, there's a reason why these super healing plant medicines and substances that can help us tap into spirit, to our higher self, are legal and slowly becoming, you know, slowly getting there. But yeah, it's just everything, all drugs, like you said, when you're in Priscilla, it's like they're all grouped together in your mind. And we're just kind of like tumbleweeds. We're just kind
Okay, let's go there. Let's talk about when you met me, Sean.
of we're going there. And you were so in your body, right? At that point in time. That's like your heyday of being super yoked gym rat status. But you were very closed-minded.
I was in my body, but I was not in my body, right?
I want you to, I don't want to just like rant off about how you were.
Go ahead. I'm another person today. You can judge my past self.
No, it's just it's very controlling, you know, and we all are, you know. It's like going outside of the comfort zone is a hard thing to do. Feels like dying.
So I was very controlling. No, tell me more, Sean. I'm waiting. You met my old self. I think there aren't many people that I talk nowadays, like only my friends back in Brazil, but that knew me in the United States when I first moved here, because I was a totally different person. Like, who was that? I don't know.
Yeah, I think we are literally different people. You know, we are not our past. We are making every moment that passes, we are time traveling through parallel dimensions, and we can choose what we want to align with. And you are not that person anymore. We are constantly reiterations of different versions of ourselves, you know. Laisa 4.0 right now. It's like
Sure. No, but how I was, Sean. Tell people how I was.
you just didn't want me to smoke marijuana, you know. You just, I remember you just rant at me for like a long ass time telling me how bad it was for me, you know. But that's the thing, is like drugs are bad on some level, right? Like I just stopped drinking alcohol, and we just don't have understanding of what are good drugs and what are bad drugs, and what scenario to utilize these different compounds, you know. And I felt like I have stopped drinking, and I felt like I had just been abusing my body for so long, and it's so normalized that, you know, if you had told me not to drink instead of not smoking, I don't know how if like then my reaction would have been a negative one, right? Like, who is Aisa to tell me, like, with weed, I'm like, okay, it's like, it's weed, you know? It's like already in our culture kind of like demonized, right? The devil's lettuce. It's like already there. So alcohol, I think, is way more damaging. But if you had started like ranting at me about alcohol, I don't know, I would probably get like angry. Who knows? You could have like triggered me in some way, right? But because it's weed, I'm like, you know, so more expected to feel.
How has it been, your journey with stop drinking alcohol? I have a really bad opinion about alcohol. I don't like it at all. I haven't drank in a long time. I can drink a little bit here and there, but my body just rejects totally. And I've done like polls on my Instagram to ask people who start doing psychedelics if they stop drinking alcohol, and like 80% of the people stopped, 20% decrease, and like
Yeah.
a few people still drink. So how has it been, the alcohol journey for you?
Well, I was never like addicted to drinking, you know. But when we get in that party scenario, the number like we just keep throwing it back. We're distracted, right? I think distraction is the key word here, because even if you're doing an enlightening sort of drug like ayahuasca or psilocybin, anything, is that if you do it in a party setting, it is not spiritual. Like, you have to go within, you have to not be distracted. So I think I could drink alcohol without being distracted, and it could be not very damaging, as long as I was just having a shot or two, like connecting with my wife. And that's actually why I stopped drinking, is because my wife passed away, and I had no reason anymore in my life to still go there. I had it just it's a depressant, and I just had no reason to keep it going. I've had enough alcohol in my life, and I have no desire to drink anymore.
Because alcohol is very damaging, right? To the body, dehydrates the body. The hangover is basically the brain just like...
Yeah. And coffee, alcohol and coffee, we are just all living in an extremely dehydrated state, burning out. We consist of water. Our body is water, mostly. So to have that is the buffer. We need to lubricate our system.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at the body as more of, like, we always talk about AI and like robots. It's like, technically we already are, it's like the body is an interface, and we need to give the body what it needs to function. We need to charge up our DMT.
Right. Let's go there.
I'm not tired.
No.
Fill up my DMT.
Yeah, did you sleep well? Did you recharge your DMT to be in this reality today that we're sharing?
Mornings are hard for me, but we make it happen. It's after like what I'm going through in my life, it's definitely a hard thing to wake up, because every day I realize that. Yeah. So wait, what were we talking about?
DMT.
Yeah, we're on a DMT drip reality, and I think we have to charge up, or we're like on a frequency wave, and if we don't sleep, we're off the wave.
Yes, we start hallucinating, right? If we don't sleep. It's not that we start hallucinating, we start going to another reality.
Yeah.
And that was the whole conclusion in DMT, the spirit molecule. He got to the conclusion that the brain each night produces the right amount of DMT for us to be in this reality. That's why when we don't sleep very well, we don't participate in reality very well, because we don't have enough fuel, right, to be here. And it's very complex, because we're sharing, it's a collective reality, right? So the same reality. But the way that I'm experiencing is not the same as you are experiencing. So each person is experiencing kind of the same reality, but in different ways, right? Because each person perceives it differently. And it's a mind fuck. This
Yeah, we are agreeing right now in spirit to ride the same frequency to have this conversation. And when we're in relationships where you are just not on the same frequency with someone, you are talking to deaf ears, because it doesn't matter the volume you use or how much you scream at that person, they are on a different frequency. They will not hear you.
That is so true, right? I feel like the friends that we gravitate more towards are the people that understand us better, that we can communicate. And not that we need to be the same, but it's kind of we're going to the same place.
Yeah.
Like we have kind of the same values, the same goals. So we're walking towards something, and that person's by your side because they're already going to that place. And some people are just going the opposite direction.
After we did ayahuasca together, I saw you for like the first time. Like we have been friends for 8 years, and I saw you for who you truly are. Like, I just like fell in love with your soul. Like, I just understood you. And
Yeah.
it's because we're on the same frequency. We went through the same thing and we were there. And I just like really appreciated like everything you have been doing for me. And it really is. I think we're just, and it was like when we feel seen, we open up even more.
Yes. Because I feel like nothing connects people more than struggling together, right? So we had just gone through an ayahuasca ceremony, which is very deep. It was very deep, at least for me. It was very like in the primitive level. And what psychedelics do, they take all these mechanisms that are around us, right? This defense. Like the reason why we don't connect with people is because we have a nervous system that it's overactive, right? And after an ayahuasca ceremony, there are no guards, like the boundaries are down, and we can connect more, and you get to know who that person really is. Because I feel like when you meet people, you see there's so many masks on top, right? To hide all that pain that everyone carries, but everyone ignores that they're going through stuff. And the ayahuasca does that very well, to just like strip you down. Like there's nothing else for you to hold on to. There's no identity, and it's beautiful too. But I also feel like our friendship in 8 years, we're able to accept each other's differences, even though we're in the same wavelength. And I think that's what's beautiful, that we're on the same wavelength in terms of respecting each other. Like I respect where you're at, I accept who you are, even if you're totally different than me. And we have the, maybe because we have done psychedelics throughout the years, but we have the capacity of meeting each other over, because like the Sean of today is not the Sean of 8 years ago. You changed a lot, but we're able to meet each other over and over. Oh, okay. Like after the ayahuasca ceremony, you saw a new me. And the more I do psychedelics, the more me I become. And just getting to know, because you had to transform yourself to meet me where I was at.
Yeah. No, most definitely. It's because when I did ayahuasca, I actually had this sort of enlightening moment about like the feminine and what that really is. And not saying that you need to be feminine to understand the feminine, but it is like ayahuasca kind of just made me understand the nature of it. I just was able to relate and to understand better. And that was a part of myself maybe that I was burying deep away in somewhere inside myself. And once I saw that, then I could relate to you on another level, and we just keep building.
Well, it's an integrated person, right? Who has because we're dancing with the polarities our whole life, the masculine and the feminine all the time. Yeah. But we're in a society where women are going towards the masculine, and men are kind of like going towards the feminine, and then really don't know what to do, right? Because they lost their position of like being a provider and protecting, because women took this place now. So it always, the pendulum always swings to like extreme, and like it's either masculine or feminine, but we have those polarities within us. And how do we do this dance of duality? Is duality inside ourselves? And even for me, the first time that I did ayahuasca, I felt like it was a warm hug of a woman, of like that feminine, that like it was like it was like there were like 100 people hugging me, and just that sensation of being taken care of. And that's the feminine, and we have this inside ourselves. So you basically touched into the feminine that is inside you. And me, I'm also going through the process of the feminine now, after this long time of taking care of myself, of loving myself. And the result of that is having friends like you, and having the women's group that I'm leading now, that we were reading books about the feminine and really like supporting each other. But this is only a reflection of this relationship with the feminine that I have within me. And I also need to play with the masculine, right? Because my masculine so far has been very aggressive, but that's not the strength of the masculine.
Very true. Yeah, the masculinity is not that. It is
not a strength.
Yeah, it is deep contemplation before actions, no matter, to hold a frame.
It's integrity.
Yeah, to hold a frame is masculine, and that is something that I'm just learning. I'm 34 years old and I'm just learning how to hold frame as a man. How sad is that? But that's what we live in. I had never seen really a man hold frame before. It's something that, and it's also part of like biology as well. Is like as we get into, as a man, I think 30 to 40 is more when we really start aligning with what it is to be a man. Like 30 to 50 maybe even, like, because that's what society deems like their structure. You know what you're doing. You're not just like controlled by your dick. You're just, like young boys, like we have so much sexual energy. It's like, it's crazy. It's so hard. It's like chasing the dragon. It's like to have that under control as a man is it takes a long time.
To master your own energy, right? Both polarities, the feminine and the masculine. And I've been playing with the polarity of the masculine, which is at this time I'm discovering all this magic of the feminine inside me through ayahuasca ceremonies or through like running, women who run with the wolves, and like all this magic resurfacing on me. I need a masculine to protect that energy. And I feel like as women, we have always waited for men to protect us, to provide us a safe space so we could open up and relax. And the truth is that I have the masculine inside myself, and I can protect this energy, and I can take care. Because the thing about the masculine wants to protect, and he wants to know the needs so he can be there. And as a woman, we always expect that from a man. And men are so lost in denying the feminine within themselves that they are not being able to be a full man, like a whole man, right? Have those polarities inside yourself, because if you cannot deal with your own emotions, you're not going to be able to deal with the emotions of a woman. So that's why relationships are difficult, because like I need to master my own emotions first, and this comes with the embrace of the feminine.
Yeah, but at the same time, I think a lot of women can be turned off by an emotional man as well, because they want you to hold frame. And so it's a very tricky.
Yeah, but we just want the guys to hold frame because we don't have the safety within ourselves that we are supposed to provide to ourselves. No man is supposed to make us feel safe.
But
Of course, that everyone needs to play their place in society, but at the same time, we are whole humans. Like this whole notion of like I'm half and the other, like the Disney movies that like the princess is just waiting to be saved. Like we're whole humans. We only find our soulmates when we are whole within ourselves. So everyone is out of place, right? The woman expecting the man to make them feel safe, and the men kind of like, I don't even know what men are doing at this point, but they're not integrating the feminine. It's a whole denial of like, I shouldn't feel that. And when I say deal with the emotions, it doesn't mean necessarily crying and it means that you know how to sit with yourself. And when the woman comes and she's PMSing and she's all over the place, you are able to stand on your ground because you've dealt with your stuff, because you can only hold the frame when you deal with your own stuff first. Otherwise, whatever wind that passes is going to crumble down your structure.
Problem with males that we are told to not cry. Right. We are told to not show emotions. And then we get older and it's like, oh, actually, you do have to feel emotions. So
and they bottle up, right? They bottle up.
When we finally integrate the feminine, it's a huge flux of energy that we have, that we're completely disassociated with. And it can be overwhelming. And then we often lose frame because of that, right? And then we are not so attractive when we're a puddly mess of tears. It's like it's a very fine lines balance.
Because I feel like the thing about an integrated man is that he's sensitive, but at the same time he's strong. Like in that energy, he can take the load.
sensitive enough to understand a woman, but also masculine enough to still hold frame.
Yes.
Yeah.
But you can only hold frame after the waves crash and you're putting yourself opening up, right? Being vulnerable, and then the waves come and then you learn. There's no other way to learn but to pass the limits, right? To cross the edge. And as men, you learn that like, oh, that's my structure and I just need to be here my whole life. Right? I can't move.
Favorite.
Yeah, that's the frame. And because the masculine, the toxic masculine is also within me. When I left Brazil, I thought that, okay, this whole machismo of men, like patriarchy, it's out of my life. And I noticed that I brought it with me. It's inside me. And I still have relationships where the men are very patriarchy. Like the patriarchy.
You want to hear about toxic masculinity? I'll give you a story about toxic masculinity.
Yeah, tell me.
It goes back to that blunt head trauma that I had, probably the worst injury that I've ever sustained. That was at a concert, and the lead singer hit me with the microphone stand. He just threw it into the crowd, and it gave me a severe concussion. I saw the whole room went white. I completely was like gone. You know what I mean? But the one thing that I could hold on to as a man was don't fall down. Don't fall down. Don't ruin the show. Don't stop the show. Just stand up. Take it like a man. You know.
Oh my God.
And because I reacted that way, no one gave a fuck. Right. The show continued. No one cared. No one even asked me if I was okay. Not even my friends. Like, no one cared.
Oh my God. How traumatizing. The level of the body and emotionally.
I put that out there, and it's like, if I had just fallen, everything would have been completely different. And I'm trying to hold frame, but holding frame and not acknowledging my emotions fucked me up even more.
And I feel like for men, it's very difficult to open up for a woman, but I feel like this needs to happen first in the circle of men, of like letting your guard down and talking to friends. That's what I'm going through, and being sensitive in between men because you guys understand each other better. Because jumping right, like being open to woman, it's way harder than just starting in your small circle, because men understand each other, they're not going to judge. But the society that we have nowadays, men are very competitive between them, and it's all inverted. But for the men, like the feminine is also within men, and the feminine is the energy of like the unknown, being connected with your intuition, and also being gentle, right? Imagine you're going through that. Like, where's the feminine inside you? That's a trauma that you carry your whole life. Yeah. And that's the approach that we have in society towards men, that men up, right? Men up. And it brings us to the question, like, what is a real man, an embodied man? And the feminine traits, like you had an ayahuasca ceremony, how did you feel afterwards? Like, I know that you were usually reserved, and in the end you were talking to everyone, you were open, you let your guard down, and that's the feminine, you know?
It's also a lot of people were all on my frequency, right? Everyone had just done the same journey, right? I keep thinking, like, we walked into that church like it was a spaceship, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And like, we were all the same. We all part of the crew, and we all went to the same, maybe not the same place, but we all went somewhere. And that's honestly why I wanted to do it more than the ayahuasca itself.
The community.
I feel really integrated. I feel like something got lifted from me for sure. And,
do you think it was the feminine?
I think I am maybe understanding women a little bit more.
You know, something interesting about the feminine is that even for me as a woman, right, stopping and dancing and looking at my body and feeling like an alien, I noticed that it's the unknown. And the unknown is scary. And for a man to integrate the feminine, he needs to dive into the unknown, in the mystery, which there's no logic in the unknown and the mystery and all like the witchcraft stuff that women do, right? The power of the jumping into darkness, because the darkness, like the belly of the woman, it's the darkness, right? It's where everything comes from. So there is like a fear of things that we don't know. And as a man, to integrate all those things, like even for you going into an ayahuasca ceremony and meeting the spirit of ayahuasca, which is, it's the unknown, it's diving into darkness in a way. And it's scary. That's why I've had, I think 3 of my ex-boyfriends told me that they were scared of my power. That's why they repressed me.
Yeah.
And hearing that after years, you know, that we broke up, like, wow, I really need to step into my power. And I see even me being scared of this power that I have within me. And now that I'm starting to tap, and it's pure magic, like there's no logic to it, there's no rationality, there's no boundaries, because boundaries is the masculine, right? So it's flowing, it's emotions, like the ocean. It's like swimming in the ocean. You have no idea what's deep there. And there's a lot of stuff. It's, and the less you know, like people that are free divers, I see them talk a lot about, in the beginning, they were very afraid, but the more that they understood the ocean and the creatures that are there and how what are the times, the seasons that they are in the surface, like when do they hunt, what are they looking for? The more they understand about the ocean, the less fear they have. And that's the man trying to integrate the feminine. It's diving into darkness and in emotions. And the thing about diving in darkness and emotions, you don't know what's going to come. It's not predictable. And the whole society is structured in the masculine, because it's order, it's predictable. That's why psychedelics are forbidden, right? Because there's no rationality to them. Each trip is totally different. Even if 2 people that have the same age, that grew up in the same family, they're going to take the same amount and they're going to have totally different experiences. And we see the psychedelics, the feminine, a lot in the psychedelics, and it is scary. It's scary as fuck for men to dive into that, you know?
It's scary in general for everyone, but I think women are, born with that. It's like hard coded. You guys have to be extra perceptive to choose the right mate, right? The right person that you'll allow inside of you, right? And potentially have children with. It's like you guys have that superpower in a sense, but that can be very overwhelming.
But that's what I'm saying. Men can also have the superpower if you integrate the feminine within yourself, because the polarities are within us. And because we separated man and woman, how women are, how men are, it's all the same, you know?
I do think that, like, man, I'm not saying that men do not have this ability. Like, I think we all do. And that it's just, it's very hard to compare. Because
like we women, we carry a portal with us, right? We have a portal in between worlds. So yeah, of course it's different. But at the same time, I feel like most of the destruction of society nowadays comes from separating man and woman. And this came from like in the old ages, when the woman themselves, they separated the traits between man and woman, because then they wouldn't send them to war, right? Their children and girls and everything. So they're like, oh, this is how woman, like the traits of a woman, and those are the traits of a man. But deep inside, that we, like, men experience emotions the same way as we experience. So inside, we, like, of course, in the level of the body, we women, we have a portal that we can bring a child into this world, bring a soul. But in men are stronger, right? You're more well built to hunt or whatever. But inside, in our brains, in the level of the brain and the emotions, we are very similar.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, so I want to speak about my late wife, who's like, she went through so many things in her life, and she had such a hard life that she held masculine frame. I didn't even need to do so, you know, like it was great. I loved it because I didn't even have to try, you know, and maybe it's like, it's a hard thing to be able to translate that connection, but she was just so freaking tough that I didn't really have to hold space for her or do any of that, you know, but she was one of a kind. You know, I don't think I'll ever meet anyone like her ever again.
But that's what I'm saying. She had her masculine integrated to her, right? And maybe she didn't have enough of the feminine yeah. But she was the best. She was a badass woman. Okay. It's just
We were able to balance each other out because we held frame for each other.
And I feel like even though you say that ayahuasca brought to the feminine, I feel like you do have, like, knowing you throughout the years, you do have the feminine like more and more within yourself. You allow yourself to be vulnerable, to talk about sensitive things, and it's not all men that talk about those things, you know.
It's my job. It's my job to be in tune with everyone I work on.
Yeah, so you are using your intuition in your work. So you are already using the traits of the feminine.
Yeah. But there's always balancing to be done. Like,
yeah, it's dance. It's the dance of polarity, of duality. We're all the time dancing. So it's very difficult to get to the perfect point because we're process, right? We're always changing. But
yeah.
something about the Roxy is that there's this guy that I follow, and I bought a workshop from him about relationships, and he talks about the polarities. And he said that when he met his wife, he knew that she was the one because she didn't need to be saved.
Yeah.
And that for me was like that's it. Because if a woman has the masculine integrated, she doesn't have that energy of like, oh, I need someone to save me. I need someone to do something for me. Because we do have the masculine. That's our obligation to integrate the masculine inside ourselves and get out of this victim position of like the whole feminism and like just waiting for men to change. And no, the change comes because the woman sets the frequency. The man comes and protects that frequency. He puts a frame into that. But the woman sets the frequency. That's how powerful we are. But because things are so inverted nowadays, we don't know our power. We are also afraid of our powers because the last time that we used, we were burned in the forest. So we're like, okay, we're going to go slow. And integrating this, it's a dance to uncover the feminine and the whole magic of what it is to be a woman, and also protecting that energy and creating our own frame around. And that's when we're a powerful woman. When someone if someone came into Roxy's field, they knew that she wasn't a person that they should mess up with. And that's the energy of having the integrated masculine, that it's not even about what you say. When a man comes into your field, he knows that that's how you are, by your presence. And it's very difficult because as a woman, we're taught that we're sensitive. We should accept everything. We're very loving. We're very compassionate. We shouldn't be strict. We shouldn't be firm. So for a woman, for us to put boundaries is very difficult.
Yeah.
In this society, when we're in this position of like, oh, we're the feminine, we're ladies, we're supposed to be taken care of. It's a whole victimization that no one is taking responsibility over this polarity that is playing out within every person. So it's our job to do that inside ourselves and not put the guilt in how society is, how men are reacting, and the whole mentality of like all men are messed up, and like this doesn't work, because we are basically saying that you have no power over your life. But when we integrate the masculine, which is something, and I got to this conclusion that if I want to open up my feminine, I need to have boundaries, especially now that I'm putting myself out there. I'm recording videos. I'm attracting a lot of people who want this feminine, this magic, right? They want to be around me. They want to know what I'm doing. They want to know more about the feminine. So if I don't have the masculine to protect that, and I cannot expect a man to do that for me. Imagine me uncovering my feminine and expecting perfect man, because that's what they do in the Disney movies, right? This man is going to arrive and he's going to change your whole life. He's going to protect you. If I don't do that for myself, imagine the codependence and the burden that I put in a man if I'm in a relationship with him and he's obligated to take care of me.
Yeah.
It's a lot for a man, and I feel like that's the responsibility that men had throughout life, of being strong no matter what. And the truth is that you don't need to be strong. You need to be strong for yourself, not to everyone. And a lot of men that I had relationships with, they would carry this burden of being responsible for everything, of I need to be a man, because they grew up not being able to cry. Like, shut up, you cannot have emotions.
This is the one thing I have.
Yeah, it's very hurtful for the masculine to have to hold the frame all the time, when we inside ourselves, we need to play with those polarities.
Want to be useful,
Yeah.
I think society, if you're not useful as a man, you would get discarded. Like, it's that's how it is as a guy. If you are not like high value, if you are not living your purpose, if you're not driven and in control of yourself, or maybe that's not the right word, but it's we are for the first time sort of getting away from war, hopefully, and men are not just dying for their country anymore, and we're like, what do we do? What do we do if we're not dying for the ones we love?
Yeah, this is the importance of ritual, right? The indigenous would have rituals for men to know when they were a boy and then they turn into a man, and that's what's happening. And since we are not in tribes anymore, it's our responsibility to create those rituals within ourselves. And I think psychedelics do that very well, to show like, oh, you are transcending into this new person. And it's a whole transformation, and the psychedelics in that pivotal moment of like, that's who you were before, and now that's who you are. Like, you transformed. And we lack ritual. Many men of like 16, 17, they enter the army because they don't know what to do. Yeah. Right? They don't have a purpose, and they need a purpose. So if they don't create within themselves that purpose, and if they don't have a community there that are doing those rituals with psychedelics or whatever, they take up the purpose of the society, of like, oh, you need to go to war, you need to go and kill people. They don't even have their brains fully formed. How are they going to go and kill people, right?
It's an amazing thing. It's like, because it's such a double-edged sword, right? It's like the ritual is military for society, but then you're owned. Like, you are now property.
Yes.
You do what I tell
brainwashing.
you.
It's brainwashing.
But hey, it has given you structure.
I know, but that's what I'm saying, that we have our responsibility of creating these structures, all of us, not only men, of creating a routine, of creating discipline, of developing this, of being your own master. Right? That's the healthy masculine, creating that structure within yourself. You don't need to go to war to learn. I see that all men that I dated, like from the FBI and Army and Air Force, they all had like the shoes. They were super organized, and that's something that because they have structure. That's another thing. And they have the structure that I didn't have it within myself, but now I'm working on it, right? Of having this structure for myself, so I don't need to. But I saw that they were very structured, like even the way they put the shoes, like all the clothes, everything. They had a whole structure, and that's why society values those people. Like all the companies, they want to hire those people because they know that they're in the game to win, and they are very organized and methodic. But you don't need to go to war to create this structure within yourself. And I feel like a lot of
yourself on some level, not against other people.
Yeah, they were within ourselves, right? The battle. Yeah, we need to go in battle with ourselves. Yeah,
that is where we need to direct that energy. And to have those rituals is, with the psychedelic experience, is in some way, you're going into uncharted territory. And I don't think there is, like, you can't say you're going to war with a psychedelic, because it's all about letting go, but you know what I mean? It's scary.
Yeah, it's facing yourself. It's the battle of facing the one that you fear the most, yourself.
Yeah, and that's all there is. It's just in my opinion, life is just like a holographic projection and we're just however we feel about ourselves, that's what we're going to experience.
Yeah, it's self-responsibility, right? It's to stop blaming the government. It's waiting for someone, like the men are expecting the woman or the society to do something about them, like to out of sudden be compassionate. Oh, now you can cry, now you can have feelings. And the men are waiting for the men so they can feel safe and blah. No, no one is going to give anyone anything. If you want to have something, you need to work for it within yourself.
Yeah.
And Terence McKenna has a video that he talks about our society of nowadays. He says that we're all schizophrenics because we don't have psychedelics. He said that when we had psychedelics, we're more balanced. And now, because we stayed for a long time without psychedelics, we're all like all over the place.
Yeah.
We don't really know how to regulate within ourselves the polarity of masculine and feminine, how to be a human, what we're here for. Like, we don't ask the fundamental questions of what I'm doing here, where am I going, where is society bringing me, because all those things that society does to a man or to a woman, it's our responsibility to deal with those things. And psychedelics were taken away from us, so we are all over the place now. And seeing the psychedelics coming back in and people being more balanced, it's beautiful. I can't wait to the future where things are legal and everyone is facing themselves, right?
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing starting to finally unfold, and no longer people are just tumbleweeding through life and with no direction. And not to say that you can't get through life without psychedelics. I think it's totally doable. But why would you want to?
Remember that you said, I need to be with a man that is not afraid of himself.
Yeah.
And that hit me really hard, because I've been with so many people that are against psychedelics. And what I see, that people that are afraid of psychedelics, they're basically afraid of their own minds. They're afraid of themselves. So if you can really face yourself, can get into a psychedelic experience, because I feel like the most meaningful thing you can do, you discover who you are, right? You peel away all the masks, all like the carcass of the body, just like you change your whole, the same way that our body cells change throughout the years. In the psychedelic experience, our brain gets renewed, right?
Yeah.
And not that psychedelics turn into a more loving, because I feel like people have this notion that, oh, psychedelics make you a better person, but they make you more you, right?
Well, they it's like I can't really speak on behalf of psychedelics, but it's like, they make you aware of yourself. They make you realize that we are spirit. Everyone is spirit. And to say that someone is spiritual is ridiculous. We are spirit. There's no choice. This is just what it is. So it just makes you realize that. And once you have a map and understand, then we limit ourselves. I was just watching a video this morning about a guitar player who's trying to teach a guy tremolo speed with his right hand, trying to get him to pick faster. And he just was so in his head, he couldn't maintain a fast picking speed. And he was saying that in the NFL, running backs get projected forward, like spring loaded forward, to feel the sensation of running faster than they can run. And then when their body feels themselves going faster than they've ever ran before, then they run that fast. We have to have maps. We have to experience these things. And so this guitar player that couldn't have a fast picking speed, he was like, all right, well, just try to just throw yourself, try to pick faster than you ever, and then he started playing really fast. It's like, we just limit ourselves and so much as possible. And that's why, times always get faster. People get more athletic, because we see what is possible and then we can mimic it. Right. But the thing with psychedelics is it's all unmapped. Everything is unmapped. It's like every time we go into that space, we are seeing things that no man has ever seen before. And then we can utilize that map in our life, because life is psychedelic. We're on a constant DMT trip, and we can recreate, I think if anyone is doing constant psychedelic doses, low amounts, I think that's the wrong way to do it. If you're doing it correctly, you don't need to do it again. I didn't do ayahuasca because I really needed it in the moment. Maybe that was my own limitation. But I think if you really subject yourself and throw yourself into the universe and discover it's a feathered bed, right? It's then it's a feathered bed and you can throw yourself. You don't necessarily need to be launched anymore.
I don't know if I agree. It's like Alan Watts said, once you get the call, hang up the phone. I don't agree with that. I feel like because the capacity to grow for us to evolve is infinite. So why would you stop?
No, I agree with your disagreement. It's just do a 5-gram dose. Like, you gotta go further than you've ever gone before. And so, like, when I did the heroic dose, 5-gram dose, it took me years
to
integrate that.
And I'm still integrating my 4 grams.
Every time I did that after was for Roxy. Like, I didn't do anything again for myself. It was for her. I wanted to be there with her while she was, like, if it was up to me, I don't know if I'll ever really do doses like that again. I literally went so deep into things that I don't know. I don't feel, at least for right now, I don't feel like I need it.
But mushrooms are very harsh.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed that.
I would drink ayahuasca frequently, but mushrooms, like, I don't know.
It's very, like, I'm just here, It's like, the one thing I learned from ayahuasca is, like, how charged words can be. How many connotations that we can have to just one word. And when we string these words through sentences, how much can get lost in translation within ourselves or within trying to communicate? Because each word can have so much of a charge. So when I was on ayahuasca, I'd maybe get 1 or 2 words out. And then I was just stopped in my tracks. And ayahuasca was like, hey, watch what connotations you have with those words. And I'm like, oh yeah, you're right, letting it go. And then I would go deeper, and I kept on trying to have opinions. Then ayahuasca was like, no, you don't need opinions.
You think you're better than others?
Well, yeah, because I was in there and there was people that were struggling growing up, and I was telling myself, I was like, this is why you don't do psychedelics around people, because all of these crazy ass energies. But that was a lack of control in myself, to not be able to handle someone throwing up or whatever and getting mad or getting thrown into these human emotions of, like, what the fuck, I'm trying to focus. But everyone was there for healing and love and support, and to be supportive and to override the human anger of being ripped from it. It's like, I have focused so much to get to a certain point, and then, like, this girl runs off to the bathroom. I'm like, whoa, and I'm out of it, and then I got to start all over again. So yeah, ayahuasca is definitely keeping it real with me. Can't lie.
I feel like she's very bossy. Like, whenever we try to think about something that she doesn't want us to think, she's very like, no.
Yeah.
And you feel like throwing up, like, okay, I won't think about that anymore. It's very, and even after the session, like, for us talking, right? Like, paying attention to the power of what we say, like, what is this coming out of my mouth? Like, how can I reframe this in a better way? Like, why am I saying that? Like, I saw a lot of victimism when I was talking. And I'm like, oh, why do I say things like that? So it's really, because I feel like the more we do psychedelics, the more we see that this reality is very malleable, right? You can shape it however you want. And this all depends on how you think and how you act, right? How you talk. And once you see that you are the creator, right? You meet the creator, and then you see that you are the creator. It's like I enter a psychedelic trip for God to give me a device, but then I realized that I am God and I need to be in charge of my life. It's basically that. So
part of God, yeah.
Yeah, we're God.
we are in some ways, but we are fragments of God. Like, in my opinion, I believe that there is an oversoul, there's a higher self, and we are living parallel realities. If you think of your fingers, of each parallel reality, we're fragments, and then we are all feeding back into the main mechanism of the higher soul. So we are living different experiences to gain knowledge for the bigger picture. So to say that your one pinky finger, well, maybe the thumb, hey, fuck it. The thumb isn't technically a finger. So it's like, you know what I mean? It's, in my opinion, it's hard to say that we are God. We are also creators, but we are all connected. We are all part of the bigger picture. And
Yeah, but that's what God realization is, right? You see that you are everything, you are everyone.
Yeah.
You would think that you would feel bigger or more important because you notice that you're God, but then comes the responsibility of like, oh, I'm everyone else. So how am I treating people, right? How am I leading my life?
It's a big weight to bear, I feel like.
Yeah, that's why we forgot. That's why we're born forgetting about everything, because we just can't handle.
Yeah.
There's McKenna says the problem is not to find the answer, it's to face the answer. So yeah, it's we go into psychedelic trips too with our questions, but how do we face all the stuff that comes up? It's yeah, psychedelic trips are profound. Yeah. Yeah, I feel like I haven't done 5 grams in silent darkness. I have not gone there. I have a whole channel, like, what am I really doing, right? I haven't done.
It's funny because when we did ayahuasca, I was like, oh, I'm completely fine. Like, it was not overwhelming in the slightest compared to 5 grams because with ayahuasca, I still had a body.
Yeah, but I feel like mushrooms are very masculine. They have a masculine approach of like rubbing on your face. Ayahuasca is more like, oh, that's what you need to work on.
No,
like those are the things right here if you want to work on them. Mushrooms
no,
like here on your face.
when I say like I have a body, like when I did the 5 gram, I had no body. Like,
oh yeah,
visually, I had disintegrated into molecules. Like my whole everything. When I used my eyes and looked at my body, it was gone. You know what I mean? Like in ayahuasca, I could open my eyes and my body was still there. But on the mushrooms, like I was losing my arms. I was eventually just a nub, like my torso.
oh my goodness.
And I curled into myself and then reset within the universe. You know what I mean? It was like so terrifying, but all in my mind, because when I thought I was being cast out into the abyss, just like eternal like darkness, as soon as I accepted that notion, I was back in a flash, just back, like good to go, sober. Like, what just happened?
You surrendered, right?
And it's all in our head. It's just the act of being accountable for my life. It's like, okay, you learned, you're back, and it was easy as that. I was so far deep. And then also in a flash, I was back to being human and sober.
But we do that, right? In life, imagine this isn't a psychedelic experience. So you think about how we lead our life, what fears are moving us. Because the truth is that, like, even with my skydiving journey, all that fear to once I get there, I jump, I do the thing and it's fun. And I'm like, wow, what is the fear for? Right. But you only know how strong you are and what you are capable of once you cross the fear. And you're good to talk about that because you have the adrenaline, right? You like adrenaline stuff.
Yeah. I mean, but it's funny how like people who skydive or do really extreme things doesn't mean that they necessarily can handle psychedelics. Because psychedelics are not, you're still in control when you're doing something in the physical world, whether it be dangerous or not.
But talking about the fear, because in my mind it's like, oh, if I skydived, I'm doing solos and I can do whatever. In my mind is like, how are the other problems that I have? Because then I carry that it's a barrier, right? The fear is a barrier. Once you pass the barrier, you start looking at situations in your life where you didn't face the fear. And it's the same in the psychedelic experience. It's like Terence McKenna says that you need to jump in the abyss to find out that it was a feather bed. And you only know after you surrender. Like, okay, I'm feeling fear, but regardless of the fear, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
That's where the gold is.
Yeah, it's believing in yourself.
Yeah, like very cliche, right? Yeah. But something about mushrooms that I wanted to say, my friend was telling me this day that they're very earthy. They bring you down there to the soil, you know. They do have this capacity of mushrooms are very humbling. That's the word, humbling.
I think when it comes to mushrooms is people don't realize that they're actually from space. You know, even though that they did inhabit the earth millions of years ago, if not billions of years ago, they still are from space. They're spores, and they could have come from anywhere in the universe. And just because they're here now doesn't mean, you know, just the mycelial connections and how they integrate the whole earth, but that doesn't mean that they are of earth. And so when you do them, they really want to push you to go beyond as well.
Million years ago, there were huge mushrooms, right? The size of trees.
Yeah.
And they were the first organisms to be here. Well, that we know, right? That the first humans knew, but how long have they been here, right? Where did they come from? We don't know. But they do like, well, even the whole superstition, not superstition, is like the myth of UFOs abducting cows, and it's from the cow shit that the mushrooms, the psilocybin cubensis, grow. So it's like how is it related, right? Is it just a coincidence that they were abducting cows and the cows, you know?
I think that as far as UFOs go, supposedly they are a parallel reality version of us, you know, so we are related to
them.
My
God, yes, yeah.
And so when they are abducting people, it's for genetic material to prolong their species because they fucked themselves.
Oh my God. No, I've had so many. Well, my first MDMA experience, I couldn't stop thinking about aliens. I could not, like, my first psychedelic ever. The first thing that came to my mind is like, wow, we're not alone. And it was so crystal clear in my mind that we're not alone.
Yeah.
In the psychedelic experiences, like even this last ayahuasca session, I felt like right in the beginning of the session, there was a surgery going on in my body. And I'm like, what are those people doing? And my ego is like, you're just imagining that. It's too crazy. And I didn't even want to go there and figure out what was happening, but because it was too complex for my mind to comprehend. But there was something going on. And I've had experiences with 5-MeO too, where I felt their presence. I had my eyes closed and they were looking in my body for something, and it wasn't anything material. It was something, they were looking for consciousness, how conscious I was of the truth, right? Because we forgot, like we grew up in this body and we forgot a lot about things, and they wanted to know how much I knew, but not knowledge, but like integrated wisdom, right? How much and they were looking through my body, and what I noticed is that they're always around, but we don't see them. And that was a hard pill to swallow too, because I'm like, oh my God, they're observing us all the time. It is another frequency and another reality. And Terence McKenna is the master of that. He talked to a lot of the elf machines, right?
Just whatever. I mean, he talked about mantis beings and all of these different beings. He was definitely a next level explorer.
We need to do more psychedelics. Whenever I listen to Terence McKenna,
I'll never be on the level of that guy.
Right?
Yeah.
Why did he die? He's the person that I wanted to bring him back to life from the dead. You know, that I want to have a conversation with him. His talks are so fascinating, like because he really gone deep. Like I remember listening to one video from him that he had an LSD experience, and in the middle of the LSD experience, he smoked DMT. I'm like, and then he said that he thought that he was alone in the house, but there were people there, and then someone got there, and this woman started knocking on his door, and he got out of the dream realm, and he got up. When he got up, all the little elves were hanging on his body. They were all like, and then he said that they would talk, but they would talk another language.
Oh yeah,
telepathically.
Well, he mapped out the language. I don't know if you've ever heard a talk where he tries to mimic how they would talk, but he would talk about his own glossolalia of language.
Yes.
He's able to speak it. And I'm like, what is this guy? This is the craziest shit. If he's actually speaking elf right now, it's mind blowing.
That's why he, one of his talks, he says that he wished people did more DMT because then they would know the depth of because then he said we would have more data, right? Because so far, that's how far I've gone, and I've taken a lot, but there aren't many people that are taking a lot. And I feel like the DMT realms, even more than mushrooms. Even the book DMT Spirit Molecule, Rick Strassman, he talks about, he's a scientist, right? He wrote the book, he's a doctor. And as he started doing the research with each volunteer, he gets to a point where he starts questioning his own beliefs, like in science and what is this reality? Because there were so many cases of people having experience with other beings that it bugged his mind, and he said that it was very difficult to finalize the book because what am I going to talk about that? Like, I'm a scientist. Like, what is the credibility of my work if I start talking about these things?
Yeah.
And it was people that the volunteers, they were from several religions. So it's not like, oh, they saw, like, they were, like, one was into witchcraft, some of them were Christians and, like, Jewish. There were so many religions and all people describing the same experience with those beings. And all those people say that whenever they go to this realm, those beings are super excited to see them.
Yeah, it's like you're waking up, you know?
Yeah, it is.
I've done DMT, but I've never really, I've done it like 2 or 3 times. No, 3 times. The third time was 5-MeO, but I never really saw beings except for the second time I had like a green woman comforting me. She was like hugging me. She was just telling me everything was going to be okay, but it wasn't for that moment. It's like she was instilling in me a confidence to do DMT again 10 years down the line.
Oh my.
I had 10 years to process of what she told me and how she made me feel to really throw myself into it when I did it 10 years later.
So that was a DMT experience that you did years ago?
Yeah, 13 years ago, that's when I started experimenting with DMT, and not just a little bit, you know what I mean? Just enough to go there.
Thank God you didn't tell me, right, Chen? Otherwise, I would never talk to you again if you told me. You told me about weed and I was ready.
But I just remember feeling like I've never felt such love and comfort in my life. It was just such a beautiful experience, and she was comforting me, and I thought about that for 10 years, and that's what that's what allowed me to really, when I did 5-MeO, that's what allowed me to reset myself into unconditional love and really, really allow it to work. Because the thing about psychedelics is you can do the same dose as anyone, but if you aren't fully letting go, it doesn't matter. You have to let go.
Ooh.
Ooh.
No, I'm just thinking, what did you learn so far with psychedelics and the body, Sean, like with the work that you do?
Oh yeah, that's a good question, because that's primarily why I started doing them. Like, when I really started throwing myself into it was for my work, because you can't heal people, you can't help people if you can't help yourself. And it just allowed me to just fix certain aspects of my personality that were hindering me in my work. And the funny thing is that, like, now after doing these things and delving in and tapping into it, I'm not even sure if I want to keep doing this work, you know? It's like it's almost opened me up to beyond what I thought was my purpose, you know, because anything is possible, and we often want to just label ourselves as things, and it's comfortable to do so. But yeah.
Because what you do for me, because I don't have your knowledge, for me it's magic, because you understand so well how the body works, where the knots are. Talk a little about like how the body connects, like the things that you were saying about the rubber bands. Talk
Yeah,
about the structure of the body.
so it's just all a mechanism stemmed from the fetal position, protecting the heart, and how that all stems. But if you sprain your ankle, right, you are going to have adhesions form on either your tibula or your fibula, right? The bones in your leg, or the muscle will grab onto your bones to stabilize that injury, to reduce a chance of injuring yourself again. This is just like a biosplint, right? It's protecting the injury. So as we heal, those muscle fibers stay latched on to your bones. Those adhesions are permanent. And so a lot of people will have a reduced range of motion after an injury, and then all of these compensation patterns, and then they will continually sprain their ankle over and over again because they don't have the same range of motion, right? But people are often scared to fix those patterns because they feel like those patterns are actually stabilizing the ankle, right? But the ankle can't get better unless you rewire all of those patterns. So it's like it's a very it's complex, but it's just through the kinetic chain, there are many patterns that will overcompensate if something is stabilizing from like a sprained ankle. You're going to have different muscles have to work overtime because you can't move in the same way, and then that the domino effect continues. And say you could have a sprained ankle, and then your hip flexor starts compensating, right? And then your pelvis starts tilting, and then your neck starts getting pulled, and then things start calcifying, and that's why you see a lot of people hunched over.
Oh my God, talk about the calcification, Sean.
Yeah, if a muscle stays, if it's compensating for a long period of time, the body remembers, it's very efficient. And if blood flow isn't traveling through a knot for a prolonged period of time, it starts to calcify, and it starts to permanently become a structure, because it already is. Like a muscle can't just keep doing contractions all day, right? It's just not going to happen. So eventually it will knot itself, right? And then that knot forces other compensation patterns and then that effect continues. But when something calcifies, it becomes a structure, bone-like, and that's frozen shoulder, which leads to like carpal tunnel or all these different things. It's just irritation, tension on ligaments, and it's very hard to fix.
And people that are like that, right? Old people that are like that, it's because they calcified. Their muscles are calcified.
Because their pelvis has probably tilted and it pulls you forward. And so when someone says have good posture, it's not so easy, because if you have a lot of imbalances, calcifications, or any dysfunction in the muscle, it's actually pulling you down. So you're fighting your muscles unless they are lengthened. And yeah, don't want to end up calcified, that's for sure.
There was one trip report that I saw from that bald guy that I watched, that he said that after his because he was doing a lot of 5-MeO for enlightenment purpose, right? And he said that one day he went so deep into his 5-MeO trip that the sole of his feet were peeling because of the energy. And then when you talk about your work, I think that we're receiving the energy, right, through the crown chakra, and this energy is passing through our body. And if we have all those knots and traumas, and the body is all like stagnant and tensed up and contracted, we don't receive the right frequency, right? Like Sadhguru says that our head is like an antenna for the body. So if we're not receiving the right signals and the right frequency, we're not living a good life. So how do you how do you see this experience of like feeling the sole of the feet and you circulate? Because the work that you do, you are basically putting down the barriers so people's energy can circulate better, even though you have the whole science behind it. That's how I see.
Yeah. I mean, it comes down to pain as well. Like if you have all these knots in your body and you're in pain, you can't resonate to your truest expression of happiness if you're constantly reminded about flashes of pain. You can be elated and then you get a little flash of pain and you're in a bad mood. It happens very fast. So just being out of pain is the number one thing. I'm not sure if like knots really affect the energetic body too much. I mean, but they do put you in pain, which affects your emotion, which is affecting your energy. Circulation is super important for health, obviously, but yeah, you can't separate the two too much. I don't know. That's probably not answering your question. It's just difficult equation.
We're answering, and then I have more questions.
It's just being out of pain is probably the number one thing. Is that I've had a lot of injuries, but I've always been able to get myself out of pain, even directly after the injury. Like I sprained my hip, I separated my shoulder, mountain biking, hitting big jumps and stuff, and like really hurting myself. But knowing this work, I was able to get out of pain almost instantly, and most people stay in that pain after an injury for months. And by understanding the body, you can get out of that pain in like 2 or 3 days, at least lessening the pain a significant amount, and not being depressed. But most people are just stuck in the pain, and that's very depressing.
What I feel, not even about psychedelics, but let's get into cannabis. The first thing when I smoke that I feel is my shoulder just drops. I'm like, wow, so I was tensing this whole time. And now that I smoked, my body just relaxed. How do you think cannabis affects the energetics of the body?
I mean,
the muscle level too, the cellular level too.
Yeah, I'm just gonna always go back to like maps. They're like each drug is like a map for us to navigate certain things. It shows us the way. And you don't necessarily need those drugs, in my opinion, to relax, but because we can always tap into them. Like what it feels like to smoke weed, right? To smoke cannabis, and the feeling of relaxation. You don't need the cannabis to relax, but it's a map, it's a reminder, it shows you the way, right? And so it's hard. I'm not 100% sure on where I stand with any of these things, because like we don't really know. But what I do know is that by smoking cannabis, everyone thought I was probably going to fail. But what happened was I became very in tune with myself, and my spirituality actually led me to create a life of success, through that navigation of spirit through cannabis.
It's a tool, right? You can use it's a knife you can use to kill someone, or you can use to cut food.
A lot of people smoke cannabis and don't relax. They get very paranoid.
Yeah, but at least what I feel so far in my journey, cannabis reveals the truth.
Yeah.
The truth revealer. That at least for me, I connect very deeply with myself when I use it in a ritualistic way, like I'm using for this purpose.
Yeah.
Because it can also be how do they say, like it can be an addiction, and you can just use that to escape your life instead of entering more into your life. But I feel like cannabis connects me with my body.
Yeah.
And that's not all psychedelics do that.
Yeah, I mean, I personally love to work out if I smoke cannabis. It's there's so many receptors in our body. It's like that's what's happening, right? It's just all the cannabinoids. It's just receiving the message, and it's funny, after all this time of smoking, I still don't really know how I feel about it, because it's just always constantly changing. It's I smoke significantly less than I did growing up, and yeah, I technically don't feel like I even really need it anymore, but it's a nice tool to work out with. That's primarily why I use it.
I think that that's the thing, right? You say you don't do it that frequently, and I don't do that frequently too. And I think that that's the thing, because if you're doing every day, like what are you hiding from? Because it can also be, it can also give numbness. I feel like many times in my life, I never smoked frequently, and I started smoking when I was probably like 26, 27. So I've never been a user, but.
It exaggerates whatever you're doing.
Never exaggerated, but I see that sometimes I would use it whenever I was going, like if it's full moon or I'm dealing with a lot of stuff and I cannot deal with that stuff. So I smoke to kind of like numb my emotions and get through that phase. And I don't think that's the right way of using, because
As far as your direction with where your mind is going, it exaggerates that emotion. So if you are like paranoid and
yeah, it's an amplifier.
yeah, it amplifies. Amplifies is a better word.
Yes, it is an amplifier. And I feel like now I'm using more I'm using for dance now, and it's fascinating how much wisdom there is in my body. And I like just doing the dance with cannabis, like the intuitive dance with the cannabis is like, wow, my body has this whole power that I wasn't aware, because music on cannabis is like, whoa, right?
Slows
So
you down enough to hear it, to
uh,
really be present. It kind of slows you down a little bit to like really be present with your body, and just enough to really pay attention to these things.
how do you think it heals the body in the level of the body?
Uh, I mean, just in a sense that if you have the ability to recognize that if you smoke and you're extremely paranoid, that something is wrong when you're sober as well. Is not
Right, that's what I feel.
just refrain and be like, oh no, I can't do that shit. It like fucks with my head and I get crazy. It's like, no, you are crazy.
Uh-huh, yeah, that's how I think too.
Recognize.
Oh, it gives me anxiety. No, you are an anxious person, it just brings to the surface.
Yeah, so I don't think that like technically by smoking we are like healing ourselves, but again, it shows us and it amplifies maybe something that we've overlooked that can be destructive over a long period of time.
But what about the level of the body?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm not sure
The
because
medicinal use.
yeah, I don't know how I feel about cannabis. I've never had cancer, I've never like uh there's lots of uses for it. Um like especially with kids, like they talk about how they have some kids with like that are on benzos and stuff, hardcore pharmaceutical medication that like linebackers take to ail their pain, and like the NFL, and they have these like little kids on it, and just by replacing that with cannabis like really calms their seizures. And I've never had like a severe medical condition to feel the benefits of it, but I've been smoking for a long time now, so maybe maybe it had wiped out a lot of those things for me before they could even, come to the surface.
I've used when I had migraines, and it really saved me,
Yeah.
because I was able to think clearly, because the headache wasn't letting me think about what was the next step. And cannabis really let me breathe, and like, oh, I didn't have pain for a couple hours, right? So it was very, very useful. But I don't know in the cellular level what happens with cannabis. That would be
Yeah, I mean that's not my, like they don't teach
our
you,
area of expertise. No, it's not mine either,
right?
but because you, like you said, you used for a long time, so you know.
Yeah,
Kind
ask
of
Joe
like,
Rogan. You're gonna get him on your podcast. He'll give you a great explanation.
uh-huh. What other psychedelic you think that helped you? Because you started massage therapy, the course, because you had pain or because of psychedelics? How did it work? How did
Um,
psychedelics?
no, I didn't have that much actual experience with psychedelics except for like salvia. Well, I guess I did. I mean, I did DMT and stuff. Um, DMT really doesn't allow you to understand what the fuck just happened though. It's just like there and it's gone. It's like very quick. You're like, well, that just happened. All right, moving on with life now. You know? But massage happened for just a number of reasons. It's funny because I had a really bad snowboarding injury when I was a kid. I crashed into ice and I like really messed up my shoulder and everything. And I played basketball at the time, and my coach referred a massage therapist, and this like 70-year-old woman came to my house and like set up her massage chair and worked on my shoulder. I was like, oh my God, my shoulder feels great. Like that was my first interaction with massage, and I realized like how healing it can be. And I never wanted to be a massage therapist. I never wanted to like touch people, you know, like I never thought that was cool. Like, but that was my own immaturity. Like, I will never touch a fat, hairy person. You know what I mean? Like, and I was so messed up in my head. Like, I was so immature that like I had no empathy or love for humankind, right? It was all about me, very selfish, very egotistical. And massage really pulls you from that comfort zone and really makes you connect with people no matter what they look like. And that just opened the door to humanity and to understanding, trying to understand consciousness and spirit. Because there's so many things once you enter into that massage program, that really strange energetic things that happen in your body, and just so many strange spiritual things happened in that course. And then once I got to the neuromuscular program, really started to understand like on a profound levels of how the body is just this one big mechanism, and everything is working together to keep us moving, you know. And what was the question?
No, I'm thinking while you talk of how you started the massage therapy course. You said that I asked if psychedelics were in the middle of it.
Yeah. So like as after I completed that, I didn't really start delving into the psychedelics until I started getting deeper and deeper into neuromuscular therapy, because we are drugs, you know. Like when I work on people and you're releasing these deep traumas, like every time it's a really big energetic exchange, and it's very exhausting for me. um and just like learning how to deal with that, learning how to navigate that kind of thing is like very, very difficult. And it has just heightened so many aspects of myself through constantly connecting with people in that way. And I had to learn how to navigate that kind of thing, you know. And I just felt very called to doing big doses to understand. And my soul had already made the choice before I even did it, you know.
Oh,
It's like I already knew I was supposed to do it before I did it, and it would all just line up. And even if I didn't want to do it, I still had to do it. It's like it was just necessary. It was just part of my evolution process, and it, yeah, just how it
yeah,
was.
I feel like it's the divine working through you, right? And the more you open the channel, the more it works through you. Because I'm feeling this a lot now. And many videos that I recorded about psychedelics, I felt like the psychedelics were using me to spread the word. And I'm like, what am I really doing here? Do I have a free will?
Yeah, but you are doing great work, though. You are like waking.
Yeah. Like yesterday, we had a woman circle, and then I start talking. I'm like, what the fuck am I gonna say? And the words just coming out of my mouth. Like of course I had notes and everything, but like who is talking? You know, it's
Yeah.
like channeling some kind of like I'm just opening the channel and it's using me as an instrument. I'm like, okay, that's very interesting. And I feel like There was a shift very big in my life when I decided to serve. And I remember I was going to do the massage therapy and I asked you, what if I get a fat person? What if I get an old person? And you were like, Liza, if you want to help people, you need to get over yourself. And I feel like that's what psychedelics do. They help us take care of the basics so we can take care of people. And the shift in my life was very big when I decided to focus on people, not only on myself. And it's a beautiful life, and all the synchronicities, like you said, that like when you start the massage therapy course, all the synchronicities, like the spiritual awakening, it is a deep process, but at the same time, I'm deep into my devotion practice now, and I feel like the divine is working through me, and it's priceless, you know, just feeling that I'm being guided. I don't need to think all the time, like, what am I really doing? Like, now I'm going to do a big change too. And I'm like, oh, what the fuck? There's no like, what the fuck? I don't know what to do. It's more like, oh, I'm being guided and things are unfolding organic and naturally. And there is a perfection on the way that things unfold. And I feel like I tapped into that at Burning Man, that I had my very deep spiritual experience. And when I looked around me, every single person that was sat by my side, like everything was so divinely orchestrated, and seeing the perfection of why that person was here, what the people were saying, like how perfect this universe is, how things, and to see this perfection, we cannot have our ego telling all the time that's like controlling, that needs to be done, like you need to do this, you need to, like, once the ego dies out a little, life becomes like more flowy, like we get in the flow and things are more happen more naturally. And not that we don't suffer, because I feel like once you put yourself in this place of service, life changes, life sends you more stuff for you to learn, right, and be able to give even more of yourself. But I feel like it's a beautiful path of and I feel like that's what the medicinal plants are doing, the mushrooms are doing. They're taking care of our basics, like our last ayahuasca ceremonies. Like, I'm like, Sean, like my biggest insight was me taking care of my body. I'm like, really? I get in there to see aliens or whatever, and my insight is like, I need to connect more with my body. It's so basic, right? And then you said, oh, I need to eat more fruits, and like those basic things that I feel like psychedelics bring us to the basics. Like, let's take care of the basics first so you can move forward, right, and go beyond yourself.
Yeah. We're always getting in our own way.
But I feel like psychedelics, they kind of guide us, and things are clearer. I have so much clarity every time I get out of a psychedelic trip, so much clarity of where I'm going, you know.
It's a lot, though. It's a lot to process.
It is. You are processing your last one still, right?
Still, yeah, it takes so much time, and you can't just keep doing it. You can't chase it. You know, it's like one of the guys asked, he's like, I want to feel that way. Like, I want to. It's like, trust me, you do not want to be locked in that position. Like, you're supposed to come back. Like, you're supposed to come back and integrate. The integration is the main thing. You know, it's like you have to be able to apply it to your life.
Yeah, because just diving into the ocean, right? What are you really doing if you don't bring anything, if you don't bring fish with you?
Yeah, you're with another Terrence McKenna. I think that was a Terrence McKenna quote.
Yes, he said that the psychedelic astronaut has a responsibility of bringing new ideas into this reality, because this reality really needs good ideas and people stepping up.
The role of the artist, and not everyone wants to be an artist, you know, because in order to do that, you have to have so much passion for something that you're willing to subject yourself to take back whatever you need to. It's because that passion just consumes you.
You're willing to die, basically, right?
And that's really what it comes down to. As I talk about massage being the reason why, but music is also a huge reason why. And I'm realizing this right now. It's like music is always like the main thing that really showed me is like to have passion for something, and to channel, and to just stop being so judgmental of yourself, because if you're playing what you think people want to hear, you're not actually playing music.
Sean, tell me about that. Let's close with that trip that you had about art. I don't know if it was an LSD trip. Remember?
Oh, art.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was my mushroom. It was just like at the end of it, it was just like art is the reason we're here. You know, we're here.
Yeah, tell me. I want to hear that. That's a deep experience.
Yeah, I don't know how much I can like elaborate on that. It was just, I think, I mean, it's in Earth. It's like the spelling is like it's highly integrated into everything we do as creation. Whether, you know, it's music or dance, like I think music and dance are definitely the main universal languages, you know, like drawing and all these other forms of art are very important as well. But as far as frequency goes and vibration, and the body's music is the language of the universe.
What about dancing and cannabis? How do you think those play together? Like just dancing, not even cannabis, but how, because I was thinking a lot about that. Cannabis told me like you need to dance more. Cannabis is very like it. That's what you need to do to hear yourself. Yeah. And I feel like I have a lot of blockages still in my body. And when I dance, I'm releasing stuff. What do you think happens in the body? Knowing with your background of the body, right?
Oh man, I mean, I love to dance.
Yeah, I know. So what's happening inside our bodies when we dance?
We're just connecting with our body. It's as simple as that. You know, a lot of people who don't allow themselves to dance, or their mind is overriding their body. They're scared of people, what people might think of them. They don't let their body move with the music, because there's no one busting out dance routines out here. You know what I mean? Dancing is not a dance routine, in my opinion. Dancing is literally just letting your body talk, letting it move how it wants to move. And that's acknowledging it, right? The body wants to be acknowledged, and it's play. It's tapping into like our childhood selves. It's everything, you know. Dancing is at the root of humanity. It's I mean, you dance with someone and you know how compatible you are.
Yeah.
Just like it speaks louder than words. But we are body language. You know what I mean? Like we think that words are really how we communicate, but 80% of communication is body language.
There's a quote, I don't know from who, but says, I think it's Anais Nin. She says, music blends together music melts together all the different parts of the body. Yeah. Music melts all the different pieces of the body together, something like that. So it's basically, that's what I felt like lately. I'm dancing a lot because I either hear my body and I listen to my body, or I'm fucked, right? So I'm like, okay, let's do the dance. And as I'm moving, I feel like things are clicking. It's like pairing, you know, your pairing thing that you say, all the body is pairing. I feel like it's doing something, and it's scary because it's letting the body take control, right? And we're not, because of society taught us that like the whole taboo with sex, you shouldn't touch your body's ugly, like don't, like it's disgusting. And so we created it because of religion, not even society, but religion created that split between the mind and the body, and in letting the body take control, and like, okay, the body it's driving the wheel now. It's scary because I've never done that before, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it depends.
I've danced, but like never really paid attention.
Because like I went to a charismatic Christian church for a while, and there would be people up there dancing and, you know, like dragging ribbons around and dancing in front of the church. And a lot of the people were very expressive. A lot of Christians are very expressive in dance. But when you
But
go,
what kind of dance? I bet is not because we have the feminine, like as women, we have the feminine within us, and we're taught that it's wrong, it's ugly. That's why women, the witches, they used to go to the forest to dance because they were not allowed to dance in normal society and civilization, right? So they would go to the forest and dance by themselves because they were not allowed to dance. And we do have this sexuality and sensuality that comes with dance. So I bet in front of those church people are not dancing with that whole power of that we have as a woman. So that's what I'm talking about, because the dance that I'm doing, it's not like choreography. It's very like sensual and seeing the side of me that, of course, I've had it before, but I know that I used to repress the side of me.
yeah, fair
And
enough.
you know what I'm talking about, right?
No, I feel you. It's I'm not
Don't be fucking religious here, okay? I know you're not.
I'm not technically like a religious
I'm
person,
joking, Sean.
but I did get baptized in a hot tub. You know what I mean?
What?
There are not everything is black and white. You know,
Yeah.
God works in mysterious ways. All right. Like I went to that church for 3 years, and just one day my pastor's married couple were like, hey, you want to get baptized? I'm like, yes. Like, come over to our house and we'll baptize you in their hot tub. It's like pastor took a meeting from break. He worked at LinkedIn, took a little break. His wife took a little break. They took time out of their day to baptize me there in their backyard. And then she went to go get the kids and he went back to work. And I'm just left in this hot tub by myself. Tripping. Okay. Like tripping off
What
of
do
this
you mean tripping?
tripping off the baptism. Like I felt freaking hot.
Oh.
Like for hours. Like my whole arms went tingly. I slept for a very long time. You know, like Holy Spirit is a real thing in my
I
life.
know I'm not denying religion. What I'm saying is that it got in the way of woman being a woman, you know?
I agree with you. Like I'm just saying from my experience of
Uh-huh.
being baptized in a hot tub is not a normal thing.
Oh,
Right?
yeah. They it's nice to see that the churches are adapting and they're changing,
Yeah.
but it's a whole work, you know, because the book was written 2000 years ago, you know, and it cannot be used for how the world is now. Things need to be updated. And not only the book was written a long time ago, but it was also many parts of like Virgin Mary. She wasn't a virgin, she gave birth to Jesus. So like let's make peace with the fact that Mary had sex, and like the whole sexuality was removed. And us as women, we are born, at least for me, I can talk for myself, for my own childhood. Like I remember feeling very guilty because I had sex before marriage, and like that whole guilt and shame, and how much this impacted who I am now, I have no idea. But the whole repression of woman, and I feel like that is the use of feminism nowadays, and it's necessary because when we step into our power, because the things that for men too, men like to be protective, to be providers, but they don't want all the responsibility. But at the same time, they do want to play their part. And we women, we want to be in our feminine. We want to be relaxed, you know. We don't want to be doing, we don't want to be boss babes. We don't want to be bosses. We want to let the men take the lead, but we need to know that they know what they're doing. And first of all, we need to take care of ourselves and to embrace the feminine. It's big part of the feminine. It's sex, it's sexuality. It's embracing our humanity. Ram Dass calls humanity. It's the part of like, yeah, our parents had sex, like all the taboos about death and sex, like we need to embrace all of that. We cannot just, you know, remove like church did.
There are aspects of sex that can be very harmful though.
Yeah.
Like I mean
When it's repressed, yes.
I mean, well, not just repressed, but I mean there are prostitutes out here, and I don't think that's a good profession. You know, like there are people that support prostitution because you have to understand that when we have sex,
But why is prostitution necessary? Because there are a lot of men that, like, in my second Vipassana, you know, I go into meditation for the second time for 12 days meditating. I met what is the name of those luxury prostitutes? There's a name.
Escorts?
Escort. I met an escort, and I couldn't talk for 10 days, right? So what I did was observing all those women that were around me.
Yeah.
And it's interesting how my mind created a whole image of them because I didn't really know them. So in 10 days, all my mind is doing, and the creativity is like all the way to the roof because I was meditating a lot. And I'm just creating the picture of each woman. And there was this very beautiful woman. She was like, had beautiful tattoos. She braided her whole hair and she was so pretty. And I just kept watching and I thinking, what does that woman do, right? And the last day we can actually talk, and I talked to everyone, and I talked to this woman, and she tells me that she's an escort. And the first reaction of my mind was to judge her, but I was meditating for 10 days, so I'm like, who am I to judge, right? So I start talking to her, and she's such an interesting person, and she says that it's her 7th time doing Vipassana, and she could not be a prostitute if it wasn't for the whole meditation, because she says that it's a big need that the men have. And she said, many of the men that I attend to, they just want love. But the only way that they find love is through sex. That's why they look for me. And it's a need that we have in nowadays society, because for men, unfortunately, for a lot of men, they hadn't passed the phase that they're still in the meat, right? They're still in the flesh. And for them, they think that sex is the only way that they can reach love. And that's their language, because that's how they were taught. So it's a problem of the whole structure. It's not only the prostitute, it's not only the man that is looking for the prostitute, it's the whole system that supports. So the problem is deeper than we like to look. And for me, like after meeting that woman, and that day we spent the whole night, and she was just talking. She has a partner, and it's a profession of her, and who am I to judge? She has her life. She does way more meditation than I do. I only do like retreats when I go hard, like one time, like twice that I went in my life. And it's interesting how the whole structure of society works, and who is playing who, because and then we're all puppets.
Judging prostitution, if you want to prostitute your body for money, then sure, go for it. But the energy that is exchanged, you don't know what person is bringing what, into your body. Energy transfer is a very real thing. And if you want to subject yourself to people's traumas and dysfunctions throughout their energetic body, and wait, let me finish. Before you match with that person, you are taking on their energetic traumas, and you are becoming one with their traumas.
Mm-hmm.
If you are a low-level prostitute, not that anyone is like beneath or, but if you are intermingling with the scum of the earth dudes and letting them into you on a regular basis, what does that do to your spirituality?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I've been celibate since my last relationship, so I can see, but it's every person is on their level, and in the end we're all one. Yeah. So what I can do is preserve my own energy. I'm very reserved, and like I'm an extrovert, but at the same time an introvert. I do value my own time by myself, and you are the same, and we're able to connect. But at the same time, I don't open up my energy to everyone. Even though I'm very open here on my channel, my sexual life, I'm very cautious of who I sleep with. But that's what people are going to be people, right? They're doing things from their level of consciousness. We can only control where we're at.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's really just awareness, and not, like guys want to go to sex to find love, but that's not the correct way to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but that's where they're at, right?
But they're perpetuating a very destructive cycle by paying for sex, because they are not enhancing their value as men if they have to pay for a woman to love them. Yeah,
and for the woman to put themselves, even nowadays, like the body of a woman became a business. A lot of influencers, it's their business, right? They post pictures, they make money. It's their business. They're using their body, not actually sleeping with someone, but there is like an energetic exchange that is happening there. So that this is all happening again, it's because of the whole structure. It's not the woman that is doing or the man who is,
I completely agree.
it's the whole structure that is messed up because of the play of the masculine and the feminine within each person.
OnlyFans blows my fucking mind because there are girls out here making so much money off of their body, and they call themselves content creators. It's like, no, you're a porn star, first off.
But you know, one time I asked ayahuasca that because I was thinking about all those women who have their pages, and me too, posting the pictures that I post, right? And at that time, my pain on my body was starting because I sat for years in an office. And then ayahuasca, you know how ayahuasca is, right? And the answer of ayahuasca was, what is the difference between a woman who gives her body? Not gives, right? She's just posing. She's making money through posting pictures or videos or whatever.
Yeah.
To you that sit in an office all day, neglecting your body, not really taking it. She said, what is the difference? And then I had to sit with that whole realization, you know? And in a way, we are, like, I was watching a talk from Terence McKenna yesterday, and he's saying that we're selling our souls to the system.
Yeah.
To the big people, to the dominators, he called it dominators, right? And we're being manipulated to a level of like all the brand names and cars, and like we are so much deep into the trash game, you know, and we're being manipulated. And who am I to say what a prostitute is doing or a woman is posting a picture of her body when I am selling my way in my body in a way to an institution, to a company that I'm selling them my time, and they give me a time like, oh, you can have lunch in this little window. So it's like, what is the difference? Like, are those people that are posting the picture that they have the whole day to take care of their bodies? Like, who am I to say in the game, you know? So
but the internet is also forever.
Yeah, but we're not forever.
Yeah, but I mean, it's each their own. Yeah, it's each their own. I'm just saying, it's a scary thing to be permanently on the internet like that. You know?
Yes.
It's like the office culture, although very bad for our bodies and very bad to just kind of sell out.
But who is the one watching? Like, is there forever? Who is the one watching? You know? And then we're all one. Who is really watching? Who is the one watching?
Yeah.
Because if you did enough psychedelics, you know that there's only you, right?
Yeah, I mean, you've got a point. It's just I think dating has been very strange, like especially after becoming a widow myself, and I had this woman that completely understood me inside and out more than anyone else has ever understood me, and now I'm back into the idea of trying to find someone again. And you know, these dating apps, a lot of them are just like business interactions for women. A lot, like, let me finish. A lot of them. As soon
you can see my eyes, right? You know me.
As soon as I say something, you're like. A lot of it is like they're advertising themselves, you know, for their pages and for their IGs, their OnlyFans, and so many of them. It's like a minefield as a man.
But what lower part of you is concerned about those? Because at least for me, if that's the mindset, if I get into a dating app with this mindset, those are the men that I'm going to find. But if I really know, like my last relationship, he was really good to me. So if I have faith, if I trust the divine, that there is that person that is different from all the other ones that post pictures or stuff, right? So it's what I'm attracting. It's how I am, my integrity with myself. It's knowing who I am and knowing that whatever gravitates towards me, it's what's meant for me. And those people are not the ones that are doing all the ugly stuff that we see. It's really what you choose to look at, I feel, at this point.
If you truly have faith, then do you even need a dating app?
Yeah, right. Right. It's true. Yeah.
Like, is God, if the universe or God really intends for something to happen in your life, and if you truly have faith, you don't need to seek it. And that's not, I'm not going against dating apps. Hey, they're fun, like they're entertaining, you know, and it's just like, coming from a relationship where I'm married and completely devoted to this one woman that understood me completely, and then like even like the thought is just like, it is just I feel like I have just been reintegrated into this whole fucking mess after finding my soulmate.
Yes.
And it's like, wow, this is like a freaking minefield. And really, what we need to be doing is investing all of our energy into ourselves. And
Into ourselves, right? Yeah. But yeah, I'm very proud of how you are dealing the whole thing, because I don't know how I would deal with that, because I'm very emotional. I feel like I would be all over the place, but you are going through the grief process, and that's what I told you before. It was a blessing that you met her. And just knowing, like me in my last relationship, knowing that good people exist and good men exist, it's like, okay, I'm fine. The right person's gonna come to me, you know.
she allowed me to believe that magic was possible.
Right. I remember when you met her, Sean, you called me like a couple weeks before saying like, okay, I'm done with dating apps. I don't want to find anyone else. I'm totally fine being by myself. And then a couple weeks after, you go walk Harrison.
This guy is
And Harrison brings you to Roxy, and you live the whole fairy tale with Roxy that unfortunately she passed, but she left in you this love that you experienced, that it's rare, and it's,
I believe,
but at least you experienced, you know, so you had a glimpse.
it's
Okay.
because everything that Roxy is and was is that I didn't even think she was possible. I like,
Right? How beautiful.
how can you search for something, right?
That you don't even know what it is.
What is your type? I don't know. Like,
But that's what I'm saying. The universe surprises us.
yeah.
And just meeting my ex and Burning Man in the middle of everything, and like, wow, and he's such a nice person, and knowing that people like that exist. And that's what I always say, like, we don't even know the people that we're still going to meet, the love that we're going to receive, the love that we're going to experience, you know. So the universe has its ways.
Yes, we are searching for what's comfortable or what we know that what we're attracted to.
Because what we want, it's because the plans of God are so much better than what we can imagine and dream, that's why we can even picture how it would be, because it's way better than what we can think. So
it's every relationship we get out of, it's like, we're so sad, but it's in hindsight it's 2020, and you're like, so glad I didn't stay in that.
Yes. Yeah. Oh yeah. The Women's Day, I was just feeling so grateful for for participating in all the past relationships, because I'm more whole and I feel like I'm more integrated as a person, because I learned so much in those relationships, and I especially learned what I don't want. So it's like I already burned a lot of karma in all those relationships, and it only changed for the best. And I was just very grateful for going through all the shit that I went through. It was, I think, right after the ceremony too, that just a glimpse of how everything is perfect, even with all the pain and the ugliness and the imperfections. There is a higher plane, right? Of there's the divine is working through everything, even though visually, because we're very visual, right? We see as a mess. There is an intelligence behind everything that is happening, and that's very relieving to think this way. I mean,
from what I went through before I met Roxy was just a total shit show. And I just realized, I was like, what am I attracting into my life? Like, why am I subjecting myself to this fakeness, you know? And I just had enough. And then I wanted to find the real in the world. And that through seeing all of the fake shit, I found the most real thing I could possibly find.
Oh.
So it's like, we have to see what we don't prefer. We have to live that.
Yeah. It's duality. We need to see one to value the other.
Yeah. As Bashar calls it, humans are masters of limitation.
Masters of limitation? Oh, good Lord. I don't want this label for myself. I already have a lot of labels not empowering me.
Well, and saying that is that we come here and we limit ourselves on purpose to challenge ourselves.
That's the whole thing. Like you said, like I was done and I wanted the real thing. It's like, it's taking responsibility. Like, why am I attracting this kind of man? why am I attracting this kind of woman? What am I really doing? What am I putting out, right? What is my energy telling me? And that's self-responsibility, radical self-responsibility, because you know that whatever is happening in your life, it's your creation. So if I'm creating this bad thing, what can I do differently to attract something better? And it's taking the power back to our hands.
The universe is abundant in nature.
Yes.
Where we limit ourselves.
We humans, right? If you see what we're doing to the environment, but when you look at nature, there's no scarcity in nature. There's violence, like animals killing each other, they eat each other like normally, but there's no scarcity. Everything is working perfectly. There's like a harmony in nature that we lack in our life, because we have this mentality that we need to accumulate. We have this emptiness that there isn't enough money, like we want more and more. And in the end, everything that we need, and psychedelics show that, it's inside ourselves, right? And it's very simple, like this love, tapping into unconditional love. Ayahuasca shows very easily that, but in our daily life, we think that we're going to find this love in material things or externally, when the whole thing inside us, right?
Yeah.
That's a deep way to finish our talk. Is there anything else that you want to talk?
The whole conversation just like, it was like nice. Yeah, that was it.
Right? We went deep. It was like a roller coaster. We went all the way up, and then we're dropped, and then in the end, after you fall, there's like this just
just got through all that. And a lot of people lose themselves in the roller coaster and all the madness, right? They're not able to return back.
Yeah, I almost got very deep into aliens, but we're able to finish it off nicely. Like sane people, right? We were able to finish with sanity, because psychedelics, there's a lot of insanity that happens, but I feel like we're able to keep the frame. Our masculine kept the frame, right? For rational people that are listening to this video.
Real, it's riding that wave. If you feel it build and just breathe through it, it's gonna be okay, and you just let it go. Ooh.
But I feel like that's what I appreciate about you. Like, our conversations go really deep. We can talk about a lot of airy-fairy stuff, like DMT, aliens, and elves. But at the same time, you are very rational. Even if with your work, I feel like I always try to get the juice, the magic out of your work, and you always explain to me in a scientific way. And I'm like, no, I want to understand in another level. But that's what I appreciate about you. We can travel very high.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I feel like you bring the groundness with your rationality. And I'm a little rational, right? Otherwise, I wouldn't survive so far doing psychedelics if I wasn't the right amount of if I didn't have some rationality in me.
Yeah, you got to bring it back. You can't just live in that space.
For sure. I'm the psychedelic astronaut. I have a responsibility, right, of recording videos about my experiences.
Yeah, you gotta remain somewhat grounded, and I always I felt like I was like floating in the abyss, like kind of just I was taking pride in that and being out there, but you still have to have a tether. Like, you can't just be.
No, because the real work is here, right? That's the whole job of integration, of like, we go on those trips to make this life here better, this sober reality better.
For everyone.
Not to stay there. People are like, oh, I did it and I wanted to stay there. I'm like, oh, you really have a shitty life, right? If you want to stay there. Like, how is your life? How are you bringing the gems to this life and applying into the daily life? How is the divine that you experience in a psychedelic experience in your life? So that's the secret of bringing, that's what Terence McKenna says, bring to this reality here, because that's where we're at.
Yeah.
Right? That's where we play.
And that's what this podcast is. Hopefully.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sean. I really appreciate your wisdom and your friendship.
Yeah, of course.
I don't know. Usually I record and people that want to look for you, but I don't know if you're gonna go into massage therapy, like in neuromuscular therapy. So I'm not gonna recommend you unless you want to.
No, it's fine. I like being an artist.
Yeah. I feel like you like to preserve your individuality, and I voice it out.
Yeah, maybe one day,
Yeah. But I hope you start your podcast. I'm planting the seed.
Yeah, the seed has been planted.
Yeah, right? Soon it's gonna come to the light. But thank you for your time, Sean.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll talk to you later.
Talk to you later. Mwah, mwah.